Pony Tales. Read by Scribbler.
It was the night after the operation, and the majority of the Rainbow Factory had been shut down for the evening. As I dropped towards the basement floor in the elevator, I couldn't help but feel good. The events that occurred today could not have gone any better. I went through the open doors and began walking along the hallway that led to the main chamber. At the end of the corridor, alert and on sentry, a suited guard prevented any notion of entrance or exit. Approaching in a manner where I would be heard, I cantered towards him, calling out as I got closer.
"Soldier, move aside. I'd like to get through."
In response, he turned to me, cringing visibly as I walked up to him.
Yes, sir.
He leapt up out of my way. I could tell he was rather confused as to why I was up at this time, but I also knew that a lowly guard would never question an orchestrator's actions. I nodded in affirmation and briskly marched past him. In my wake, I heard the suited guard sigh a breath of relief. Passing at the door to my office, I continued down the hall. Its sole purpose in the factory was to keep the holding chamber for the soon-to-be wingless Pegasi separate from the rest of the place. Soon-to-be wingless. Soon not to be Pegasi. Pegasi without wings are not just earth ponies. They are less than that. They've tasted the kind of freedom that mud ponies never can. They're not earth ponies. They can't live on mere earth. They're pathetic abominations that spit in the face of Pegasus purity. These were going to be my victims as soon as the schedule rolled them around to me. I was going to turn them into those abominations, and I wouldn't be doing it for the good of Pegasus kind. Like when I used to feed fillies and colts into the machine. This served no higher purpose other than cruelty. How could I justify my revulsion when my hooves were stained in the blood of hundreds, if not thousands of other lost lives? Not being able to justify it did not make it any less potent inside me, however. Maybe I was just broken in my head and heart. Maybe all the years up here had done major damage to me that even I hadn't realized until now. As I approached the glass chamber, I was met by 100 pairs of fearful eyes. No pony was asleep for obvious reasons. As I typed the combination code and stepped into the room, the group of Pegasi began to shiver uncontrollably. Backing as far away as they could from my shadow, bitterness spiraled up inside me that my simple presence elicited such a response. But could I really blame them?
"I am not here to hurt you."
My voice echoed around the glass chamber. Silence met my words.
"I'm here to help you escape."
They clearly didn't believe me. Heck, I wouldn't have believed me either. A gray filly stood up, her eyes shimmering with conflict. A pony with a silver mane tried to pull her back down, but the defiant Pegasus shrugged the hoof away. With a disgusted shake of her head, she began to speak.
"And why in the name of Celestia should we trust you? You ruined Crystal! She was our friend!"
The look the filly gave me was one of pure hate. An elected murmur of agreement flitted through the assembled captives. Crystal, the pony I had de-winged, had been used in Rainbow Dash's demonstration of the Pegasus device as well. My chest tightened of the unfairness of her hate.
You shouldn't. I'm not trustworthy. What you should do, though, is follow common sense. Tonight, I'm leaving this place for good. Whether that be with you all or not.
A brown Pegasus with the Leaf cutie mark wailed from the crowd.
But there's no exit!
Shut up, Leaf! I'll handle this! Don't yell at him.
Yelling would be bad.
I kept my own voice low. There were no cameras here in the cells, but the walls had ears, and those ears were attached to ponies with tasers.
We're all scared.
The silver-maned filly nuzzled the gray one so tenderly that I revised my opinion of them as merely friends.
I know you want to look out for everyone, but if you start yelling, they'll just get even more demoralized. I was class president, Silver! I was supposed to take care of every pony when we got here!
Yeah, great job there. How many of our class are dead now? 2? 3? Or was it up to 5 now?
Chimed a voice from the middle of the crowd.
You knew Crystal was scared out of her wits, but you still let them take her!
Dancer, that's not fair. You know how bad she feels about that already.
Her feeling bad won't bring my sister back! It should have been her on that table, not Crystal! And if you think we can trust the very pony who cut off her wings and burned them up like they were old scrap paper, then you're an even bigger idiot than she is!
Shut up, Dancer! You don't get to talk to Silver like that! Sweetheart.
Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I felt like I was an extra who had walked into some pony else's story. No, not an extra. I was the villain of the piece.
I'm not asking you to trust me blindly.
I raised my voice more than I was comfortable with. It hushed the crowd, and I got a look at the pony who had spoke. A colt who could have doubled for the filly I had butchered. He was waif-like and thin, his white coat and yellow mane making him look even more washed out. His eyes, though, burned with an intensity that would have incinerated me if he had been able to.
Then what are you asking?
The gray filly glared at me expectantly.
As you can imagine, we're not exactly eager to go with you when the last pony you took away ended up de-winged and then meshed up in that machine!
I'm asking you to let me make amends.
Amends? Okay, here's how you can make amends. Cut off your own wings and then go jump in that Celestia damn machine!
The white colt scoffed and stamped his hooves like he wished the ground was my skull.
Maybe then we'll trust you!
Dancer, that isn't helping.
Screw you, Silver! What do you care? As long as your girlfriend's okay, you couldn't give a flying feather about the rest of us!
The silver-maned filly looked shocked and upset at his words.
That's not true. Why, you lousy!
Stop fighting right now, or I'll take back my offer and leave without you.
They all stopped in a tableau of expectation and animosity. My voice echoed off the walls in the empty silence that followed.
Correct. There is no exit. There is, however, a balcony upstairs that an able Pegasi could take off from. And here.
I presented them with a small knife.
I'll cut the bindings off your wings.
To demonstrate before she could move, I whipped out the knife and sliced through the restraints holding down the gray filly's wings. She sat down with a bump, as if the news in my action had robbed her legs of strength.
To get to this balcony, you need to know the passcode. I have the passcode here.
I pointed a hoof to my head.
Now, who's going to take a leap of faith and come with me?
No pony moved. They weren't going anywhere. They just stared at me like they were waiting for the catch.
This was a stupid idea. Shut up, Brain. Very well. No one will.
I will.
The gray filly struggled back to her hooves. A twang of excitement ran through me. It felt strangely familiar.
I will too.
The silver-maned filly rose to stand as well.
If they are, I am too!
The whole crowd began to rise until almost every single pony was on all fours. I felt something flutter in my chest. The emotion was alien, yet at the same time so natural. I began cutting free the restraints, allowing them to stretch their wings and wrap them around each other in overjoyed hugs. I realized with a start that I was happy. I was feeling genuinely happy. Only one pony remained on the floor, the white colt with the angry eyes.
Wind Dancer, aren't you coming?
I can't believe you idiots are actually trusting him!
What else would you have us do?
You're all freaking idiots! You don't know he'll get you out! This place is sick! And so are all the ponies inside this place! You're throwing your lives away!
Well, I don't know about you, but I'd rather die fighting for my freedom than die because some pony else decided it's my time.
The object of this is to not die at all.
I stepped over the white colt. He bared his teeth at me like a scared dog. Surprise washed over his face when I flipped my knife around and gave it to him hilt first.
Here. If you don't trust me, cut your own wings free. Then you can do what you want. Come with me or don't. I'm leaving, and I'm willing to help any pony here who's willing to accept it.
Slowly and gingerly, he accepted the knife, glaring at me all the while. With a few quick swipes, he cut himself free.
How do you know I won't just stab you with this?
I don't.
I didn't elaborate. I just turned away and surveyed the rest of them. My ears perked, and I raised my chin a bit higher, looking at the rallied crowd in admiration. Their wings were all free now. They glared back at me, loathing and distrust in their eyes, but I didn't care.
Follow me and keep silent.
If you're messing with us, I'll kill you myself.
I stared hard at the gray filly.
Don't become a killer if you can help it. The benefits aren't worth the cost.
I swung open the door to the containment chamber. After the last pony left, I exited the room and made my way to the front of the flock to address them all. I didn't have to tell them to pipe down as I might have expected. They were all totally obedient.
Single file. Keep nose to tail. Once we enter the factory floor, the alarm will most definitely sound. Do not panic. If you panic, you die. Keep close and follow the pony in front of you. Do not stop to fight. Do not stop to damage the machinery. Revenge is futile. Keep your hooves steady. Don't fall. If you fall, you die. 1 second of delay could lead to you all being slaughtered. The only advantages you have over the workers out there are surprise and desperation. Use your emotions. Channel them. You need to go fast. Keep your feet and do not look back. Even if ponies around you fall, don't you dare look back. Are we all set?
Nodding all across the ranks.
Good. May Celestia...
Celestia! Ha!
The voice did not come from an individual in my audience. Turning around, I saw Rainbow dash a mere 20 hooves down the hall, blocking our exit. My heart sank and soared to see her. She was my hero. She was my inspiration. She was wonderful and brave and loyal and committed to keep the Pegasi great. She was also the pony who had insisted I rob other Pegasi of flight, even though it benefited nothing and no one. She was the pony staring at me now, like I was a bug under her hoof.
After all this, you call on Celestia to help you? You're stupider than I thought. Celestia hates you. You killed and maimed those that worshipped her for years now. The stains on your soul won't come off now. You feel guilty and try to save a few who deserve their fate. Celestia, as you know her, is dead, soldier. She's been dead to you for years, and you have been dead to her.
Forcing down a wave of fear, I made myself walk up to the overmare.
Not another step.
The tone of her voice made me hesitate.
What are you playing at, Dash?
Oh, you misunderstand. I'm not playing. I'm serious. Do you see the StatCon?
She pointed down to her ankle where the gold-trimmed device beeped.
With a simple click, I can bring the whole guard force down on you. You're strong, and these ponies behind you are desperate, but do you really think you can win in a situation like that?
I knew I couldn't. I was so stupid. What had I been thinking? I had seen failed uprising attempts before. How could I possibly thought my attempt would be successful where theirs had failed? Some of those Pegasi had planned their escapes far better than I had. They hadn't had their heads so recently turned by guilt like me. They had been waiting for months, even years, and had still failed. Every fiber in my body willed me to just give up. My attempt at redemption was nothing more than a fantastical theorizing. Yet still, something deep down made me want to try.
It's not a matter of winning or losing, Dash.
Overmare to you, traitor!
I set my jaw.
It's a matter of spreading your wings and trying to fly. You can't take flight from Pegasus. That's not how this works. That's not what this is all about. How can you bring honor to the Pegasi race in Equestria by taking away what makes them great? And for what? No reason except cruelty. No benefit to any pony. It's even more barbaric than I would have thought you capable of. I guess I didn't know you at all. Like you said, no pony on the surface knows who you really are. They think you're some happy-go-lucky prankster. They never guess you're the Overmare. I thought I knew you better than them. I thought...
A clicking noise was followed by the slamming of doors. At the far end of the hall, flooding like Spectre from the Pegasus device, guards began to arrive. Rainbow Dash had only been stalling for time, and I had played straight into her hooves. Her guttural voice rose above the commotion.
Then fly, Orchestrator! Fly to slaughter!
She lunged at me, and I jumped to meet her. We collided in midair and fell rolling to the ground, wings and hooves both beating at each other. After laying a solid buck across Rainbow Dash's side, dazing her momentarily, I turned to shout at the panicked ponies.
What are you doing just standing there? Leave! Fly to the upper gangplanks and...
That was all they had to hear. In a massive flurry they took off, flying over or running past us. On seeing the departed Pegasi, Rainbow Dash howled in rage and tried to stand. I threw myself on her, but with a heave, she threw me off and kicked me solidly in the gut. I flew uncontrollably through the air and smashed into the wall. As Rainbow Dash took off, I groggily sprang up, grabbing her tail in my jaws and yanking her back down to the floor. She fell in a pile, rolling quickly out of the way as I moved in to finish her off. It was all instinct. My body moved almost without me having to direct it, which was useful, as that prevented me from having to realize I was fighting my idol. My hoof smashed the ground where her body used to be. Such was the force I used, it splintered painfully. I fell to the floor with a cry.
Did you really think you could kill me? I'm like a god up here and you're a simple mortal. Why shouldn't I be able to do as I please? Without me, this whole place would fall apart.
Using the wall as my crook, I pulled myself into a standing position.
You're not a god, Dash. You can die just like the rest of us. Stop fooling yourself.
Launching off of the wall and into the air, I attempted to ram her. She countered and spun me around, pinning me to the wall.
Overmare! I am the Overmare, not Rainbow Dash. I sacrificed my own sister for the Rainbow Factory. I gave this place everything, so now it is my everything.
I stared into her eyes, trying to catch my breath. Madness danced in those rose-colored depths. At this point, the guards had caught up. She turned her head to address them.
Go after the others. I'll take care of this one.
The soldiers moved past us and took flight, leaving the Overmare to finish off her victim. They didn't even question her. If they found the sight of her pinning one of her own to the wall with the clear intent to kill him disturbing, then they showed no signs of it all. I wondered how long Rainbow Dash had been mad. I suddenly wondered whether I was the first to retaliate against her since the orange filly, Scootaloo, had been fed into the Pegasus device.
I thought you loved me! Loved me! You have beautiful eyes! Beautiful eyes! You have beautiful eyes! I thought you loved me! Loved me! Loved me! Loved me!
Look what you've done!
An uncomfortable pressure on my chest increased as Rainbow Dash pressed me harder against the wall. She struck me across the face, which dropped me to the floor. She bucked me again, and then pulled me back up to the wall.
You both ruined your stature and disgraced your Overmare! You had so much potential! I actually thought that maybe I'd actually found my successor, but I was wrong. I keep being wrong about successors. First her, now you. This factory really can only survive with me in charge. No pony else. I could see now that you wouldn't have lasted a day in my horseshoes, let alone a lifetime!
I could practically feel her building rage. I had to act quickly or I'd be finished off. I didn't want to die. Not here. Not like this. As she screamed in my face, her attention took up by letting me know what a failure I was. I reached down and yanked at her taser. It held firm. Tensing, I desperately flicked on the device while it was still wrapped around her hip, placing my own hoof to meet the vibrant blue bolt that had appeared. I felt a jolt as the electricity passed through me and into Rainbow Dash. Her grip went slack for a mere second, but it was enough. Taking the small window of opportunity, I wriggled out of her convulsing hold and slid between her hind legs, rolling onto my hooves behind her. The source of electricity gone, she turned to confront me, but I was too fast. Bringing both my hooves to the back of her head, I put all my weight into a kick that smashed her forehead against the wall. There was a wet, cracking sound, and she collapsed onto the floor. My front hooves, one burning with pain and the other shattered, were useless for walking, so I hovered, wings flapping in small jerky motions to keep myself off the floor. Thankfully, they still functioned perfectly. I braced for her to retaliate again, but she didn't move. Already a pool of blood was beginning to form around her still body. To my utter disgust, I felt a shock of empathy. As much as I hated her, she had been the one who let me live in the end. She had, in her own twisted way, been protecting me ever since I killed that filly all that time ago. And again, in her own twisted way, she had thought she was doing the right thing for the factory. For all Pegasi. I half remembered some phrase from when I was a foal. Something about power and corruption. The thought slipped away from me when I tried to grasp it, retreating into the aching parts of my injured head, but I felt like it was important anyhow.
Goodbye, Rainbow Dash.
Turning away from the mess, I flew out of the hallway and into the main floor of the Rainbow Factory. The sight of desolation that met me made me shudder. Bodies of guards and unarmed Pegasi both littered the ground. I recognized the brown colt with the leaf cutie mark and half a dozen others. Their faces were twisted into unnatural grimaces. Their jaws unhinged in silent screams. Blood painted the walls and floor. One of the guards lay in a heap, half on top of something white and struggling. I launched myself over and pulled the guard aside to reveal the white colt. Knife still in his hoof from when he had plunged it in so deep into the side of the guard's head that the blade had snapped off.
Bastard! You said... But I took a few with me. I'll take you to...
He waved the broken knife at me like he didn't realize the blade was gone. He dissolved into wet coughing as the movement widened the gouge the guard had kicked into his stomach. Wet entrails glistened up at me. As I watched, a ropey cord of intestine slid free, leaking fluid.
Wasn't supposed to be like this. Wasn't supposed Chris.
The broken knife clattered to the floor from his lifeless grip. For a fleeting moment, I actually thought every pony had died. I was wrong.
Silver! Please don't die! You have to hold on! Please, Silver! I can't do this without you!
An echoey distress call coming from somewhere ahead drew my attention, and I started making my way to the far end of the upper gangplank. There was still some sort of commotion going on. I rounded the corner and saw a single thin figure leaning over another. A pony convulsed on the floor in a seizure, most probably instigated by a taser. The dead guard taser still in Hoof, was testament to what had happened. It seemed like the silver-maned filly had been taken down and the gray filly had got in the lucky shot while he was occupied. He had fallen backwards against an outcropping of metal that still held a chunk of his mane and scalp on it. I was both mortified and deeply relieved. The convulsing stopped, and the gray filly crouched low with a deep, ragged sob that seemed to come up from so deep inside her. It was a sound as dark as space.
So you're alive. We all thought that you were dead.
I nearly was.
Or that you had abandoned us in some sick, twisted game that you were playing.
I could tell she was just trying to hold back tears. She looked back down at the dead filly in her embrace, and her voice became soft and broken.
Either way, you're too late. Every pony. They're all dead. Silver and I were the only ones to make it this far, but that damned guard. He was hiding behind the door, and he jumped out on us. I never even saw him. And then Silver was on the floor, and he was stamping on her, and using his taser, and...
Tears plopped under the silver filly's upturned face.
I can't do this without her.
Yes, you can. She would have wanted you to live.
How would you know?
She all but growled at me, hackles raised.
You didn't even know her! We were all just things to you, not ponies!
Are you saying she'd prefer you die here with her?
No, I just...
Then choose life.
I sighed. There was no time for comfort, and I was bad at it anyway.
Make that life count. As long as you can make it, every ounce of blood spilt would have been worth it in the end. All it takes is a single voice to tell about the dark secrets of the Rainbow Factory.
I paused to take a shuddering breath, realizing that this wasn't just about escape anymore. Maybe the thoughts had been inside me all along, and I was too cowardly to see it. Or maybe the sight of my hero with her insane head caved in had sparked it in my brain. Equestria needed to know what went on here. The Rainbow Factory could not be allowed to continue this way, stealing ponies as lives in all ways.
We can still escape, but we have to move quickly. Are you ready to go?
Reluctantly, the lone filly got up. Nodding slowly at me, she planted a kiss on the silver filly's forehead and followed me. Hovering above the terminal, I typed in the password. To my relief, the doors swung open.
Follow me. Please.
When we arrived at the hall, I realized with a start that something was different. The lights were all off. Entering deeper in the room, the gray filly close in tow, I went over to the far wall and felt around for the light switch. After a moment, I clicked it on. The sight that met my eyes as the lights flickered to life made my heart skip a beat in panic. To my horror, the hall had been blocked off on two sides by metal walls. My mind reeled as I tried to comprehend. As if on cue, the door that the two of us entered in from slid shut, and we were trapped.
What the hell is this? You tricked me!
The gray filly growled at me from deep in her gullet. It was a primal noise, full of grief and frustrated regret. I abruptly wondered who the silver-maned pony had been to her, and wished I could have given her one more time to say goodbye and mourn before dragging her away. I was reminded with cold clarity that I did not see death the way any other ponies did, and it made me shudder.
I didn't,
was my weak response. I raised my front hooves up in innocence. I was beyond confusion.
I'm going to die in here!
The enraged Pegasus took an aggressive step towards me, and tears of anger began to fall down her cheeks, her voice choking with emotion.
With you! I could have stayed with Silver, but instead I followed you, and now I'm going to die with you! Or is this some kind of trick? How could you play me like this?
I didn't respond. I was too discombobulated to talk. Had I somehow confused the doors? No. Impossible. If I'd done that, I wouldn't have been able to get inside here in the first place. What in the name of... I had been about to say Celestia, but Rainbow Dash's words floated back to me. I wasn't one of Celestia's ponies anymore. She was right. I hadn't been for a long time. Still, what in Equestria was going on?
I win.
The voice, coming from a small camera mounted over the door, crackled in a pool of static.
I win, and you lose, soldier.
That voice. It was impossible. Or maybe not. Maybe she really was a god. Immortal and invincible. I began to shudder uncontrollably. My world blurred around the edges.
Confused? Let me explain. Currently, you and your companion are in between two breach walls. Years ago, they were installed by the last Overmare as a foolproof if all else failed. I have to admit, this was the first time I actually got to use them. Those wretched Spectra donors you rallied really put up a fight this time around. Yet in the end, it was to no avail. Clearly all you've done is trap the last beacon of hope for me.
A sharp burst of laughter ripped at my nerves. My stomach twisted painfully in distress.
I had plans to come after you personally for trying to kill me, but then I changed my mind. I thought to myself, why not kill him and the nag with him in one go? She's the last one, you know. Every pony else is dead. So you didn't save them. You didn't succeed in this pathetic attempt at a rebellion. I expected so much better from you. Instead, my best orchestrator has to die alongside the stifled moaning of the pony he had to hook and kill it. You killed them all. And because of what? A petty concept of redemption? Did you really think you could escape and just go back to living amongst normal society after what you've done? I think you did. You actually thought you could just leave this all behind. You thought it was that simple.
Tears blurred my vision. My wings seemed to lose all power, and not because my injuries from the flight were hurting. I fell to the floor, and I just lay there. I no longer had the will to rise.
I was only doing what I thought was right. I couldn't live with myself any longer, and...
My voice cracked. Thin lines of moisture rolled down my grimy cheeks.
I couldn't do this anymore, Dash. I can't do it anymore. There has to be a better way. There has to be some other...
There isn't. Maybe once upon a time there might have been, but look around you. Think about all that rests on this factory. All the ponies who depend on what we do here. Would they understand if it all just shut down and went away? Would they be able to cope? Think about the way equestrian society works, you pathetic disgrace for an orchestrator. They need the Rainbow Factory. They need us.
But...
You're an idiot if you think otherwise, just like all the other idiots I've put down for even trying half of what you did today. None of you understand. None of you. You're what's wrong with the world today. Not me. Not this place. You. All of you.
Her laughter made my skin crawl. This was wrong. Everything was wrong, or had gone wrong.
I'm going to enjoy watching you die, you sniveling disgrace.
A hissing noise. I looked around frantically. So did the gray filly beside me. She stood tall, but I could see that she was trembling with a combination of fear and fatigue.
Do you hear that? I think you do. As we speak, the oxygen is being drained from the room. Why don't you pray to Celestia? We'll see whether she cares enough to answer.
With a resolute click, the audio cut. Already black dots were spreading to consume my vision, and the air in my throat felt thick and syrupy. I ran at the door, stumbling on my bloodied hooves, and bucked. A hollow knell rang out, but it did exactly nothing except split my hoof down to the bone. I gave a ragged cry of frustration and agony. Turning my heavy head to the gray filly, I motioned for her to come to my side. At least I could die alongside a pony who hadn't been corrupted by the factory. A pony who lived amongst the society that, even now, I craved to return to. She shied away from me.
Do you have a plan to get out of here?
My gesturing hoof froze. What should I tell her? She was staring at me, all big green eyes and trembling legs. She couldn't be very old under all that grime. Unicorn and earth pony fillies her age didn't have to worry about dying up in the sky, in the one place where wings couldn't fly you to freedom. Hers were neatly folded at her sides. If I had just done my job the way I was supposed to, I would have cut those off. I would have heard her screaming and begging me to stop, and then I would have watched the Pegasus device grind her up and spit her out as spectra, so the pretty little innocent unicorn and earth pony fillies down on the ground could have sunny days to grow up and grow old in. This gray filly would never grow up. She would never grow old. Neither would I. I had failed. Abruptly, she stumbled towards me, shoving me aside to turn, and launched her tiny hind legs at the door. She kicked again and again, grunting and shouting wordlessly, desperation dumping one last blast of adrenaline into her system. It didn't take long for her to have to stop. She was too small, too weak to break through. The hissing of emptying air continued.
I should have tried sooner.
What?
I should have tried to get out sooner. I shouldn't have stayed for so long. I thought I was doing the right thing. Or, no, I was too scared. I was always too scared. I was selfish, scared only for myself. I did such terrible things, all because I was too scared not to. But that's not an excuse. And then I was too late. I should have tried harder. I should have said no sooner, before it all got this far.
She didn't try to comfort me as my tears fell. Why would she? As far as she was concerned, I was part of the reason she was in this mess.
Yeah, you should have.
I'm sorry.
I turned my face aside and stepped away from her, shame inside me so hot it burned.
It means nothing now, but I'm truly, truly sorry.
We're really going to die in here, aren't we?
I didn't answer. I didn't need to.
I don't want to die. Please, you can't let me die. You said you'd save me. You said you'd protect me. You were supposed to get me out.
I'm sorry.
No, please, no. I don't want to die.
She flopped down, legs giving way about the halfway point, abruptly graceless and panting. I stepped towards her, but I stumbled and fell. I tried to crawl towards her, but my muscles were laden. I heard her whimpering as my vision grayed and dimmed.
Don't be afraid. It will be over soon. There are worse ways to go. It's just like going to sleep.
My mouth wasn't working right. I sounded like I was drunk. The black dots became frenzied and my vision died altogether. The tip of my forehoof touched something. I hoped it was the foreleg I had been aiming for. I hoped she got some comfort from it.
I want my mommy.
What's your name?
I should know her name. It was wrong of her to die without anyone knowing her name or caring who she was. I struggled to hang on to my remaining senses.
Starlight.
I couldn't smell my own blood anymore. My mouth was made of cotton wool. Only two noises remained. The deep clanking of the Rainbow Factory 1 story below, and the ever-present static.
I'm sorry.
That was Awoken Part 5. It was written by Synergy, with additional material written by Scribbler, and featured the voice talents of Finish Line as the narrator, Reben-chan as Rainbow Dash, Miss Sheller as Starlight Spark, Otis Cat 123 as Silver, Lachlan O'Neill as Scootaloo, De Wilstonator as Wind Dancer, Wooten AIE as Leaf, and narrator pony Ilya Leonov, Astro Brony, Black Iris Balloon, Lee Shaw, Len Ray, Solar Pony, Quillen Led, and Reverb Brony as background voices. It's over. Yeah, because, you may have noticed from the ident this was meant to be in October for Month of Macabre, and it clearly isn't because it's the middle of November. Yeah, life just completely and utterly got in the way at the end of October, and I had stupidly put a release date on the 60k blooper reel. So that had to come out last week, even though technically Awoken wasn't finished. So hopefully this was worth waiting for, because, this chapter was the fiddliest edit I've had in a very long while. Lots and lots of little things that, if any of them had been missing, the overall effect would have been rather lessened. So hopefully, the many hours spent on this thing was worth it. And you enjoyed it all. Well, maybe not enjoyed. Didn't want to rip off your own ears from listening to it. Although, I don't know, it's grimdark, maybe you do. It is very, very late at this point. It's 2 minutes past midnight on a Friday night. Finally, Friday the 13th is over. I've had a bloody awful Friday the 13th. I won't go into details, but it's been a horrible day. And quite frankly, I am glad it is over. I am about 3 sips of Pepsi away from just putting my head down on this table and going to sleep. I'm really tired. But I wanted to make sure that after all this time and effort and patience from everybody who's been waiting to hear this particular part, this denouement of this fic, that they got what they wanted. Hopefully it turned out to actually be what they wanted. I don't know. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And if you have to throw things, just make sure they're not sharp ones. So as ever, and for the last time, I need to say a big thank you to the cast of this fic, because this, more than anything I've done in a long while, was so very much a team effort. And if it hadn't been for the amazing talents and donations of time and generosity of self that these people have shown, this reading would not have been possible. So thank you so much to everybody who contributed. Now, I will attempt this week to not do what I did on the last part of Awoken, which was to accidentally play the end music over the end blurb. Unfortunately, because that happened, because last time I was, again, tired while editing, the art that I was given, that I talked about, didn't show up in the video. So I have some more art to show today. I had rather more art over the last few weeks than I was expecting, so I'm not going to show all of it today. I'm going to save some of it for next time, otherwise this end blurb is going to be longer than the reading itself. But I need to include the pieces of art that were missed off last time. So first of all is Obub Scribbler fan art from Cheery Lollipops, she of the lovely name. Thank you very much for this shiny, shiny piece. I sang its praises last week, and now everybody gets to actually see it. And then we have this, Tales from the Pony Crypt by Quillen Led. Thank you very much, Quill. It's such an amazing piece of artwork here. I love it, I really do. And we have Stick Pony from... it's Pinky Rose, but for some reason on my file I've written Prinky Rose. So thank you from Prinky Rose for this adorably, absolutely, epically epic piece of art. Thank you. This was my Skype picture for quite a while. So thank you very much for this one. I have Running from Time by Irish Wristwatch. I couldn't remember if this is one I'd put in last week. So thank you very much again. If not, you get 2 spotlights. And then we have this. This popped up on my Twitter feed a couple of hours after the 60k subscriber video last week went live. And to be honest, This is the thing that gave me the biggest laugh, because that video took so long to edit, it nearly brought me to tears. I'd forgotten what laughing was like. And then this popped up, and it's from Turton DA, who does a lot of my artwork for podcasts and various different things. And before I had vectors, his was the art of my OC that I used the most. And he just did a really beautiful one of my OC going, fuck! As I did many times during the blooper reel. Apparently I have quite a potty mouth when I've been recording for a while and things won't go right. So thank you for that one, because that one really made me smile. And finally this week we have Halloween Pegasister Party by Crazy Magic One. And this is a piece of art of a lot of female fandom VAs and analysts, people who reviewed the show, and various other different female personas from the fandom, and I got included in this. It's amazing. So thank you very much for Crazy Magic One. To Crazy Magic One. Thanks, you. Like I said, there have been some other bits of artwork, but I'm going to keep them for next week. And hopefully, with a little luck, there's a particular video that I keep meaning to bring out. And just things, life and problems and Friday the 13th and shit just keeps getting in the way of this thing coming out. You will know it when it appears, because it's not the kind of thing that appears very often on my channel, so it will kind of stand out. You'll know it when it appears. I'm repeating myself. Hopefully it will come out this week. I'm really going to try. I am made of fail and tiredness and lack of sleep, and I want dog hugs. So I am going to say thank you to all my patrons now, so that I may go and have puppy hugs from Suki, who's been very poorly today. So thank yous have to go to Griffin Productions, Dawn Holland, Quill and Lead, Red Tiger, Limey Pony, Ian Jensen, Shining Tevos Star, Marcus, Stephen Knight, The One Ryu, Mystic Mystery, Andrew, Xena, Norman, Madcurse, Starlight Stream, yes, he did struggle with saying your name, Ask Nightmare Luna, Ilya Leonov, Nova Launch, Warrior of Virtue, Peregrine Caged, Greg F., Ed Arthur, and Sturdy Solus. Thank you very much to everybody who has been my patron this week. I love you very, very much. And now I must love you but leave you, so that I may go and have puppy hugs. Be lovely to each other, and good night, everybody. Happy very belated Halloween.